I love you.
No. No, Clark, you can't.
This is my world.
No, Clark, don't.
You are my world.
No.
This moment right here really could have been a piece of cinematic history as impactful as Tony Stark's death in Endgame. But alas, it is not cinema history, and in fact, this entire movie is a pretty big laughingstock in the superhero movie industry. I mean, are you really going to try to compare Batman vs. Superman to something like Endgame? Now, I keep bringing up Endgame because Superman's death really should have been treated like an Endgame sort of scenario. And I think that this is so clear that if you had actually read the Doomsday comic book where Clark Kent dies, the death of Superman, you would be able to tell that you can't do a story with Doomsday like this early on in a cinematic universe. So to back up my points, I'm going to be taking a look at the Death of Superman comic book and comparing it to Batman vs. Superman. And essentially what I'll be doing is explaining why the Death of Superman did not work. Not in this movie, at least. Before we get started, make sure to hit that like button and subscribe to get more content like this. Batman vs. Superman hit theaters with a bang, bringing together the iconic clash between the Dark Knight and the Man of Steel. And I remember the internet being crazy hype about this movie. I mean, just look at these trailer reactions. However, after all the dust settled and more complaints about the movie began to come out, one of the common criticisms was that Superman's death just doesn't really work. It's not a great scene. Of course, this doesn't mean there's anything wrong with the concept of killing Superman. There have been plenty of stories that have done it better than Zack Snyder did in Batman vs. Superman, but Superman's death in BVS just felt more disrespectful and cheap rather than impactful and interesting. So let's compare the classic comic book with the infamous movie and see if we can find a clear reason as to why Superman's death just did not work in Batman vs. Superman.
That's all that matters.
The Death of Superman comic. It's a storyline that has widely been praised as one of the best Superman arcs ever written. Well, what makes this comic book so great? Why did this Death of Superman work, whereas the film adaptation fell short? Well, let's look at the story. The story begins with the emergence of a powerful and seemingly unstoppable villain named Doomsday. He's wearing an odd green suit covered in wires and restraints. He's breaking out of what appears to be some sort of holding cell. This monstrous creature starts a destructive rampage across the United States, leaving a trail of devastation in its wake. The story wastes no time showing us how bad Doomsday really is. And what is great about this is it shows us everything that we need to know about the character right off the bat, right at the beginning of the story. We know Doomsday is there, Doomsday is coming, Doomsday is a force to be reckoned with. Whereas in Batman vs. Superman, Doomsday doesn't show up until the third act of the film. That aside, let's look back to the comic. While on his rampage, Doomsday destroys what I think is a gas or oil truck, some kind of 18-wheeler. The explosion, of course, causes chaos in the streets. All of this gets the attention of the Justice League, who go out to try and help. The officer remarks that how he can't believe that the Justice League is in Ohio, and all I can say is, me too, buddy. Anyhow, the officer explains to them that the mystery monster caused all of this destruction and then ran off into the woods. So of course, the Justice League goes to chase after Doomsday. And it is at this point in the story we find out Superman is, he's going on a TV show. Kind of a weird thing to do when the Justice League is out on a mission, but it's constantly intercut throughout their mission, so I can only believe that he is actually doing this TV show as all of this Doomsday stuff is Well, on the show, Superman explains to the host that he had came out today to try to help Americans trust him and the other Justice League members. He wants to talk to them, humanize himself a little bit, and just make the American public feel better about handing over so much of their security to a group of costumed superheroes. And again, it's just kind of weird to have him on a talk show doing this. It kind of feels like the 1990s equivalent of going on the Joe Rogan show to get some good PR.
Yo, Superman, you ever think about hitting up a DMT trip in the Fortress of Solitude? I mean, imagine the insights you'd get about the multiverse and stuff. What's your take on interdimensional exploration while floating in midair?
Joe, what the hell are you talking about?
I'm telling you, man, it's a game changer. Imagine you flying through different dimensions, meeting other versions of yourself, maybe even super beards and super mullets. It could be a wild ride, Soups. You ever consider expanding your mind like that?
What you suggested was even a remotely good idea. It's not. Why in the world are you suggesting it to me? I'm responsible for all of humanity. I can't afford to play around like that.
Dude, saving the world is the ultimate CrossFit. I get it now. But for real, do you ever take a day off? Like, just chill on the couch, binge watch some Kryptonian shows or something?
All right, Joe. I think I am going to go now. I would throw you into the sun, but then I'd feel bad. It'd be like putting down a special pit bull.
I hope you all thoroughly enjoyed my terrible attempt at a meme, but with all of that being said, let's continue to move along with the story. When Superman finally dies in the comics, we see all of the Justice League at his funeral. The pages are filled with heroes, fully decked out in costumes. Well, killing Superman this early in the timeline robs fans of the chance to experience something like that on the big screen. I can't wrap my head around it. Okay, now that I've concluded my little rant, let's get back to the story. Finally, Superman catches word of what's happening in Ohio. And I'll admit, this is a bit odd to me. Again, just for the fact that Clark was on this talk show for so long. Doesn't he have superheroing or something? Did he just, not give a fuck that his team was getting beat up by Doomsday? Surely he could have heard that, right? I'm sure of it. Again, did he just not care? Was he just so focused on the interview that he wasn't listening elsewhere? Seems kind of fucked up. Anyways, that problem aside, Superman finally heads towards the battle. As he is flying there, he actually runs into Booster Gold, who has managed to activate his force field. Booster Gold tells Superman that Doomsday is upon them. So, of course, Booster Gold takes Superman to Doomsday, and then we get a panel which, for some reason, just reminds me of the "this guy" meme. I love it so much. I just feel like Booster Gold saying to Superman, this guy right here, kill him with the hammers. And the fight kicks off. The remaining Justice League members try their best to help Superman, but they stand no real chance against Doomsday. They even try to use their combined forces, but Doomsday doesn't have a scratch. Doomsday just is destroying the Justice League, and it includes this great scene where Doomsday slams Booster Gold's head into a car door, and I just love it so much. Superman and Bloodwind try their best to use their I-beams, but Doomsday punches them both at the same time, causing Bloodwind's head to turn, and this actually causes a house nearby to blow up. As the house is burning, Superman takes off for Doomsday, who is trying to flee the scene. People on the ground in the rubble of the burning house call out for Superman's help, but he knows the rest of the League is still down there, and he hopes that one of them might be able to help. But when Clark realizes that the rest of the team is too injured to help, he delivers a mighty blow to Doomsday, knocking him to the bottom of a lake. With some time bought for himself, Superman goes back down and is able to find and save everyone in the rubble. As Superman talks with his friends, Guy Gardner warns Superman that Doomsday can't be messed around with. Guy then encourages the Man of Steel to put Doomsday into a pine wood box. Probably one of the hardest Guy lines I can remember, but that's neither here nor there. So all of that was our introduction to Doomsday. What an introduction that was. I mean, it showed us just how dangerous this supervillain was, and it did it, right at the beginning of the story. It wasted no time showing us that this was the big threat, and it devoted all of its attention to exploring that threat. Now, if I continue just to look at this comic page by page, this video is going to be way, way, way too long. So I am just going to go ahead and skip to the end, to the final battle, to Superman's death, So we can inspect this scene and compare it with Zack Snyder's Batman vs. Superman and see what this death got right, where Zack Snyder's Superman's death just, it fell short. Our final showdown takes us to Metropolis. In a moment of desperation, Superman and Doomsday deliver simultaneous blows of incredible force to one another. The impact is fatal, and both characters fall down to the ground, their corpses lifeless in the streets of Metropolis. Superman's self-sacrifice is powerful and emotional, and the world is there to witness his death, to witness the death of the greatest superhero they have ever known. The aftermath of Superman's death is explored in multiple issues. The world mourns the loss of Superman, and various characters, including Lois Lane, Jimmy Olsen, and other heroes, grapple with the absence of the Man of Steel. Funerals and memorials are held, and the impact of Superman's death is felt not only by those close to him, but the entirety of the DC universe.
Stay with me. Please, stay with me.
That thing. Is he?
Yes. You did it. You saved everyone.
Good. It's all I ever wanted. Except for you. What a lucky man I was.
No.
To circle back to my original question, why does the death of Superman work in the comics, but not so well in Batman vs. Superman? Well, I think it can be boiled down to two main points. Point number one is that there was not enough time given to Doomsday. This movie was billed as a Batman vs. Superman movie, and that's what it should have been. But for some reason, Doomsday was thrown in at the last section of the film, and this results in his character being a massive letdown. Doomsday is a character that can easily have a whole movie devoted to him. So to kill Doomsday off just a matter of minutes after we first met him really wastes the character. And the second main reason that Doomsday and Superman's death didn't work in this movie is because the universe was too young. Superman died in his second outing into the cinematic universe. This has always been an odd choice to me. One of the reasons Doomsday is so scary in the comics is because we've seen Superman and the other Justice League members fight other dangerous enemies before, and they came out on top. We know how strong our heroes are. So to see Doomsday just tear through the League and make quick work of them, it makes Doomsday look like more of a threat. It makes him more scary. But powers aside, in most universes, we've also seen enough development of the Justice League that we really know and care about these characters deeply. We just haven't had enough time with the characters in this Zack Snyder universe to be at that point. Again, compare Tony Stark, where he's at in his arc of self-discovery in Iron Man 2. That place he's at. Now compare that place to where he is in Endgame. I mean, it's totally different characters almost. I mean, obviously it's the same character, but his arc has just transformed him so much that he's grown. And we don't really get to see a lot of that development with Superman. I know that there is some, but it just feels so rushed. I just don't understand why they couldn't give Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman more time to develop as friends before they killed off Superman. I think if those two big issues were fixed, then you could really have a meaningful Superman death on the big screen. I'm just so mind-boggled by some of the choices that the studio made for this movie. But that's just my opinion. And I want to say, I really don't hate Zack Snyder. I think he's talented. I think he definitely has created a lot of interesting stuff out there. But again, the decisions he made for the DC universe, it's just has always been confusing to me. And I wanted to take this opportunity to talk about it. But remember, opinions are like assholes. It might smell a little bit different or be shaped differently than other people's, but we all have one. So Please be kind in the comments. I know Zack Snyder fans can be really protective over this work, but this really is just my opinion, and I'm not trying to throw stones or be a dickhead or anything like that. It's all in good fun. So, with all of that being said, that's everything I have for you all today. Be sure to like and subscribe and look out for the content coming soon that I have planned. I do have a lot more videos planned that will be coming out. I'm so happy with the growth that I have seen, and I appreciate all of you guys so much that have subscribed. So yeah, keep watching, keep looking out, and new videos will be coming down the pike soon.